Friends, thank you for being here today. What if I told you that the fate of the American auto industry in 2025 wasn't sealed by engineers in Detroit, but by politicians in Washington? How did a policy designed to protect American jobs end up shipping them north of the border? The year 2025 will be remembered in the annals of the American auto industry not for a revolutionary new model or a breakthrough in technology, but as the year the floor fell out. It began not with a single cataclysmic event, but as a slow, grinding erosion that quickly cascaded into a full blown crisis. By the year's end, the stark reality was measured in lost livelihoods and shuttered factory gates. More than 42,000 American factory jobs, once the bedrock of Midwestern communities, had simply vanished. These were not jobs lost to automation or the typical ebb and flow of market demand. They were jobs ripped away by a protectionist trade policy that backfired with devastating precision. The tariffs intended to shield American industry instead acted as a wrecking ball, shattering the intricate, globally integrated supply chains that had taken decades to build. The once humming assembly lines, monuments to manufacturing prowess, fell silent one by one. The logic of these tariffs was on the surface straightforward: make imported goods more expensive to encourage domestic production. But this calculus failed to appreciate the profound complexity of modern automotive manufacturing. The industry operates on a razor thin just in time model where components arrive at factories mere hours before they are needed. A single vehicle is a symphony of thousands of parts sourced from dozens of countries. Tariffs on steel, aluminum, and a vast array of finished and semi finished components did not just raise the price of a few parts, they introduced a fatal grit into the finely tuned gears of the entire system. Shipments were delayed at ports, costs became unpredictable, and the seamless flow of materials that is the lifeblood of just in time manufacturing ceased. For Asian automakers who had invested billions over decades to build a robust manufacturing footprint on American soil, the new landscape was suddenly hostile and economically untenable. This led to a strategic pivot that would have been unthinkable just a few years prior. Automakers who had once proudly touted their commitment to U.S. production began to hedge their bets. The flow of investment capital, which had long favored states like Tennessee, Alabama, and Ohio, started to change direction, trickling and then flowing north to Canada. The Canadian government, sensing a historic opportunity, aggressively courted these disillusioned manufacturers with promises of policy stability, a welcoming trade environment under the USMCA, and substantial incentives to build out a burgeoning electric vehicle and battery ecosystem. For a Japanese or Korean auto executive, the choice became painfully clear: contend with an unpredictable and costly tariff regime in the United States, or move to a neighboring country that offered a stable, cost effective, and friendly platform from which to access the same North American market. For the American consumer, the consequences of this industrial earthquake were felt almost immediately and acutely. The dream of new car ownership, a cornerstone of the American middle class, drifted further out of reach. With production lines sputtering and import costs soaring, the inventory on dealer lots began to dwindle. The few new cars available carried sticker prices inflated by the tariffs, a bitter pill to swallow for families already grappling with high financing costs. Monthly payments ballooned to unworkable levels, chilling showrooms across the country. The industry had been plunged into a crisis of its own making, shaking the foundations of a sector vital to the American economy and directly impacting the financial stability of both workers and customers. As the new car market seized up, desperate buyers turned to the used market, only to find that scarcity had infected it as well. Fleet operators and rental companies held their vehicles longer, drying up the supply of late model used cars. A 10-year-old sedan with high mileage now commanded a premium price. Car shopping became a frantic scramble to secure any viable vehicle before it was snapped up. Analysts warned that this pricing pressure and inventory crunch would linger indefinitely, a hangover from the tariff binge that would not ease until trade normalized. The turmoil triggered a deep structural reset of the entire North American automotive landscape. Automakers faced a fork in the road: double down on U.S. production or move north. Toyota and Honda, titans of the industry, were forced into damage control. Toyota warned that tariffs could slash nearly a 10 billion from its bottom line, slashing profit forecasts and turning its North American operations from profit to loss. To preserve loyalty, Toyota absorbed costs rather than passing them to consumers, but billions in red ink revealed the immense strain. Honda, deeply rooted in both the US and Canada, reshuffled production to increase domestic content, but faced the same supply chain obstacles. Smaller Japanese automakers fared even worse. Nissan, already struggling, halted financial guidance amid chaos. Subaru faced existential risk, passing costs to customers and risking loyalty. Mazda saw exports from Mexico collapse by half, while Mitsubishi, lacking US factories, was nearly priced out entirely. But while Japan's automakers reeled, Hyundai and Kia seized the moment. Viewing the crisis as opportunity, they launched a bold localization plan centered on a massive new complex in Georgia, a fortress against trade volatility. By 2030, over 80% of their U.S. sales would be American built. The project included EVs, hybrids, and a battery plant, signaling that the best way to dodge tariffs is to build local. Though costly and fraught with logistical hurdles, Hyundai Kia's gamble could make them dominant if tariffs persist. Meanwhile, American consumers bore the brunt through higher sticker prices, costlier components, and pricier raw materials. Automakers either raised prices, trimmed features, or leaned on discounts that ate into profits. The used car market collapsed as trade-ins dwindled, forcing middle-class buyers toward older, less safe, and less efficient vehicles, worsening affordability, safety, and emissions. While the US struggled, Canada capitalized, rolling out aggressive incentives for EV supply chains, from mining lithium and cobalt to building gigafactories. Tariff-free access under USMCA made it the natural refuge for automakers fleeing US instability. Each new project tilted the North American auto map further north. Build where you sell was no longer a slogan, it was survival. But behind every statistic lay human cost. 42,000 lost jobs meant shuttered factories, struggling small businesses, underfunded schools, and hollowed out towns. The loss of specialized skills and industrial knowledge further eroded America's manufacturing base. Canada's ascent as an EV innovation hub only deepened fears that the US would fall behind in the global automotive transition. In trying to revive manufacturing through tariffs, America had instead outsourced its future. The final verdict: America was left walking a tariff tightrope. 2025 was not just the story of foreign automakers fleeing, it was a story of chaos, forced adaptation, and fractured fortunes. Toyota and Honda fight to endure through financial might, smaller brands struggle to survive. Hyundai Kia gambles big on US soil. The result: higher prices, fewer choices, and vanishing affordability for consumers and for workers. A race against time to rebuild North America's industrial foundation before the future leaves them behind. The clock is already ticking.